I heard that it was the thinking. So when you're in a negative sort of thinking mode, and that's how you're seeing the world, you're only ever going to be able to make decisions from that perspective. So even if you have made like a rubbish decision from a negative perception and it's resulted in a rubbish outcome, which it probably most likely does, you know, you have to kind of forgive yourself for that, because if you didn't have the understanding of how like the mind works or whatever, then you're not going to get that. You can't kick yourself for these things. You can't kick yourself for living in that kind of innocent misunderstanding and making these choices and the outcomes that kind of pass. You really have to forgive yourself. It's one of the biggest things that I've done, is looked at these situations and went, oh yeah, that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm not going to blame myself for it, because I didn't really know any better, and I couldn't really think any better because I was in a particular low mood or low energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, forgiveness, like you said, we forgive because, now, I mean, we have our reasons. Some people are not forgiving people, or they just don't see that they are. Let me rephrase that, because everybody has the capacity to forgive. Because when we understand that, you know, we're temporarily caught in our own thought created reality, it's much easier than to forgive. And you're right. I'm pretty sure that you said this. It's ourselves that we need to be forgiving, and taking it a little easier on ourselves and cutting ourselves some slack, because, yeah, people are doing the best they can with what they have available to them in any given moment. Absolutely. And when I stopped working that statement out intellectually and really, like, just, I want to say more, say felt the words, that opened up a huge door for me, because I was able to understand more people around me, if that makes any sense. I was able to understand, where they're coming from now, because they're just doing the best they can.
And I think that's kind of key. And there's a lot of blame that gets chucked around. Um, but you're also kind of, I think, going back as well to what you were saying about judgment. You were judging a lot of people, but you were equally also judging yourself, and that was the primary source of the judgment for other people, was your own internal ones. So same goes with blame,
Hmm.
and probably even things like guilt or worry, and these things get projected out too. And it's because you're holding them sort of feelings for yourself.
Yeah.
And so once you kind of drop that, then you can have seen yourself in those positions and understand that it is coming from you. Then you can see how it's working on other people, because that whole concept of like separate realities and everybody's like thinking at life from their own perspective, and we're all looking in to this external world going, what are you all doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you being that way? And then getting all dead blamey. But I think we're all just picking up on our own internal judgments of ourselves as much as anything. And that's how it all comes to pass, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely. We get lost in the fact that too that when we are in those negative realities of ourselves, that they'll pass too. But we have to see that first for ourselves, right? Like, so we have to see the principles at work, not just say, okay, yeah, I know there's thought, mind, and consciousness. Okay. We actually have to see that we are all, every single person on this earth, living in our own moment to moment thought created reality. And I like to use like going to the movies with like a group of friends, and you're all watching the same movie in the same theater at the same time of day. But when people come out of that theater, each one's probably going to they might have, similarities to what maybe their favorite part was, or what they didn't like, or what they liked the most. But each of them are going to say it differently. And each of them are going to explain it from their perspective, from their reality, what they saw in the moment. And that's why you can take two very, like, let's say siblings who grew up together, and take two siblings who, let's say, watch the same movie. Well, one likes it and one doesn't. Why? They were both exposed to the same value systems and belief systems growing up. So shouldn't they have similar tastes in music or movies and all of that? And I mean, as well as I do, the answer is no. No, because they each have their own separate reality. And we take in things differently. And our thinking is our reality, nobody else's. And yeah, I mean, not quite sure where I was going with that. It'll come back to me. But it was just kind of more of how we experience things differently. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who we are, how we got there, any of those things. It just matters that we know that there is an intelligent energy that's running everything. It has our back, mind. That our thought creates our own personal realities, moment to moment thought. And our consciousness is just the gift of awareness. It's our capacity to experience our thoughts. It brings thought to life. And I just find it so interesting because before this understanding, I would never even, I don't know, never even given this a thought. It's really interesting how much people's realities are so different, yet somewhat the same. But do you know what I mean there?
Yeah. Because what was the metaphor that I really liked for that was like two people in an elevator, and the elevator breaks down. It stops between floors, and the one person could end up like absolutely freaking out. The other person could be quite calm. They're in the same situation, but they're both reacting to it entirely differently. And you don't know what's going on in behind like the scenes. You don't know why that person is calm. You don't know why that person's reacting, but you know it's from an internal position because there's nothing different for either of those people in terms of their external situation. It's just how one's dealing with it calmly and the other ones not. But, you know, equally, there is sort of, to a point, there is your experience. And sometimes, you know, maybe that person had been trapped in like an elevator before. Maybe they were trapped there for hours. Uh, who knows what the circumstance might have been that instilled that fear into them that made them react that way. Maybe they're slightly claustrophobic or something, which is another kind of fear. But again, this is all kind of thought based, you know, and that results in your behaviors.